The first thing is my story here. I swear that every Sunday, last Sunday, and now this Sunday, I have spoken to people or received videos that have been really interesting. So I'm going to tell you guys exactly what's going on here. I'm titling this segment, Elder David A. Bednar Targets LGBTQ Members in a Temple Training Video. So this is kind of how it went down. I put a short out today and I've gotten a lot of interesting feedback. Of course, always being called a liar. That's always fun. I'm not a liar, and I'm going to clarify everything right now. So I have a friend in the Seattle area who is a temple worker. This is a longtime friend, decades old friend. And this person, as a temple worker, let me know of a scenario that had happened in the Seattle temple last week. So if you work in the temple, you're either called an ordinance worker or a temple worker. There are various kinds of levels of temple workers. Some are just regular people that come in and take a shift. Other people have more, specific duties. It's kind of its own little world there. But they do gather before their shifts. Sometimes, in some temples, I think it's almost every time before their shift. In others, I've heard that it's, maybe just on a need to gather basis, but it's basically for training, a devotional perhaps, maybe procedures that they need to talk about. This group is coming in today. We need to do this and that. Anyway, just touching base with the group, which, any corporation does that, right? When they're fielding a lot of people that come in every day, or not so many people. Anyway, so my friend let me know that last week there was a training and they showed a training video. And I guess that's pretty common, little segment. And these videos come from upper church leadership. How it works is the temple presidency is instructed by upper leadership. We're talking about apostles, Q15, first presidency, in how they want things to work in the temple. And these little videos are put out and you can use those for training in the temple. And then the temple presidency will kind of clarify what's said in the video. So this particular video that they showed last week had to do with same-sex romantic behavior in the temple. Now, I looked up exactly what that means. I mean, we've seen it in the BYU Honor Code. It's in the church handbook. That could be as simple as holding hands, in a same-sex relationship. Obviously, a kiss, what would be considered very light behavior for a couple that was not a same-sex couple, right? Somebody at BYU doing that would not face any kind of penalty.
Doesn't every guy in the temple hold hands with at least one other guy multiple times?
Yeah, and this is what we're going to show. This is what I kind of, you're anticipating where I'm going with this. But this video basically was asking temple workers, ordinance workers, to be on the lookout for this. And if they see people engaging in same-sex romantic behavior, which, still is kind of nebulous. What is that exactly?
How romantic?
Yeah, how romantic. You're supposed to go up to them as the ordinance worker and warmly welcome them. Make the temple, not like when I went through, oh my gosh, it was like, are you wearing nail polish? Get out. They are all about being friends. No, that really happened to me.
What color?
Yeah, light pink. Yeah, it was back in the day. But they are all about the user experience and not frightening anybody and being very, very kind. And I know that they have extensive training on that. So in Elder Bednar's video, he was the one in the video they showed. He said, welcome them warmly, tell them that you're very glad that they're here, and then invite them to visit with someone, in the temple presidency in the office. Okay. So that was kind of the video.
You're calling them to the office, like to the principal's office?
All to the office. Exactly. Isn't that interesting? And so, of course, the temple workers had some questions about that. The first question was, how do we exactly tell the difference between, say, a father and a son? Arm around, son, I'm so proud of you. It's your first day at the temple. Or a mother and a daughter sharing a hug. Maybe they had gone to the temple and they were wrestling with a question in the family. And, the temple can be a very emotional place, especially in the celestial room. When you gather, people go there for answers. They go there often with family members. And so the question from some of the temple workers was, well, how exactly do we tell what kind of behavior this is. And the temple presidency, according to my friend, didn't, just said kind of do the best you can. I think people thought there's a lot of margin for error here. This could be
And
really misconstrued.
by the way, Rebecca, like I told you earlier when you told me this part, I said, this is what passes for training in the LDS church. Seriously, this is what passes for training.
Yeah.
Do the best you can.
It is. And another question some of the temple workers raised is, what if it's someone, say, from another culture that's more demonstrative, more than we are used to, basically, what if some people are just huggers, right? They're going to go around and hug everybody. Is that something we need to, how do we do this exactly? The other question they raised is, what if they ask us why? Why do we have to go to the temple president's office? What should we say? And the temple presidency, whichever person was there, conducting the training, said, well, kind of do the best you can and really feel sorry for us because we're the ones that have, to talk to them. And they explained that the reason, and this is what I think is very interesting, the reason for seeing someone who may be engaging in romantic same-sex behavior in the temple, the reason they need to go into the office of the temple presidency is so that they can find out who their bishop and who their stake president is. And then the temple presidency can contact the bishop and or the stake president and find out what the story is on why this temple recommend was signed. What is the scenario with this person? So basically, to me, it seems like it's asking the ordinance workers to be the eyes and ears of, upper leadership to see what's going on the ground. Now, my friend
missed this, Rebecca. Because I think this is a very important point, and I want to underscore, what did your friend say was her basis of knowledge about being the eyes and ears? In other words, trying to figure out who these people are so that the bishops and stake presidents can be contacted.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just kind of what they were discussing, that, we need to be on the ground and what, because how is somebody, in the church office building going to know what's going on in temples? And as I understand it, this video can be shown in training in any temple in the world. I would love it if anybody is friends with a temple worker, to find out if it's shown anywhere else. So my friend was very disturbed. Other temple workers in the room with my friend, they were more just questioning, how do we do this exactly? But my friend is very much an ally, and my friend was very disturbed. So my friend went back to another shift training to make sure that there wasn't a misunderstanding. Maybe the video didn't come across right. Maybe my friend
got done with her shift and then went to the next shift training so that she could be there to watch the video again.
Yeah, exactly. Just to understand exactly what was happening. And it was the same video and it was the same instruction. Please invite them to the office, and we need to make sure that we contact the bishop and the stake president to assess the situation, as vague as that sounds. So, and again, this is in the Seattle, Washington temple. And I'd be really curious if anybody else in any other temple who gets training, because temples all over the world, temple presidencies all over the world, and they have access to these videos, from upper leadership giving instruction about what needs to happen in the temple. So that was pretty interesting to me today. I put that out as a short, and of course I got a lot of feedback on that. Seems like I'm always getting feedback on videos lately. I don't know. So, of course, there is no copy of this video. It happened inside of the temple. So all we have to go on is my, decades-long friend, who, of course, I trust completely. And her reaction, she was extremely upset. And I can't go into all the details, but took action based on, for herself personally, based on what had happened here. So I started thinking
something before you get to this. This is very funny.
Sure.
What I want to say is that presuming, for the sake of argument, we'll presume this is true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's all we can do, really, is presume. Right.
Right. What it speaks to me of is that the leaders of the church, the top leaders, are concerned about their bishops and stake presidents giving temple recommends to people that they know are gay or in gay relationships.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right.
How do we figure out, how do we find out what bishops and stake presidents are doing this? Well, we will go to the temple. We'll have the workers there look for any gay people. Okay. Any gay activity. If your gaydar goes above a 5, you need to take these people and tell them to go to the temple president. We're going to find out where they attend, so we know the name of their bishop and their stake president. And then we can reverse engineer this puppy and hold those guys accountable. If this is correct, I think that the leaders are really struggling to get control of the church.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I think, what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought now. I can't remember. Anyway, no, I think you're absolutely right on that. Oh, I know what I was going to say. For people that aren't familiar with kind of the rules of, being a member of the LGBTQ community and being able to go to the temple, you can do anything in the church as long as you're not in a same-sex relationship. You can be a member of the LGBTQ community, but the moment that you are in a relationship, get married, start dating, start exhibiting romantic behavior as simple as a handhold, that's when you are going to butt up against leadership and you might have a problem. Any thoughts on that, Bill, before I just show some other pictures?
One of the signs they look for is a long and lingering patriarchal grip.
Remember, though, that's not a... Okay, yes. There's a linger longer. Unless your last name is Bird, and then you seem to be able to. So there are a select number of gay members of the church who seem to be on the right side of the good old boys club in some way, that the rules don't apply to them. They get to be in the thing that no one else is allowed to be in. So there are exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I just started thinking about, just people that go to the temple and just express, love or affection. And I thought about how many pictures we see of the church leadership. Look at it. They are hugging, they're groping, they're grasping, they have arms around each other. There's a kiss down there. Elder Uchtdorf is kissing President Holland. There's hand holding. These are just some pictures I grabbed off of the last couple conferences. And I know that the Q15 do meet in the temple. They meet on a certain floor and have, what if they were walking down the halls and exhibited any of this kind of behaviors, an embrace, a kiss, a handhold, would they be asked to go to the temple president's office?
I think they all need to go to see the temple president. This one over here on the left in the middle with Bednar, is that where he's like comforting Elder Uchtdorf when he got demoted from being president?
That could be it. Sorry, buddy. That could be it. So
it kind of looks like it.
And then I just have to put up this picture. And you know why. I mean, according to D. Michael Quinn's posthumously released memoir, President Kimball enjoyed a good kiss up and down the neck and embracing.
He was making out. Let's just call it what it was. It was a makeout session.
No, in Mormon parlance, it's called necking and petting, RFM.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I don't know if everyone knows what we're talking about, but yes, in D. Michael Quinn's book, he talked about several interactions with President Kimball, and President Kimball was extremely affectionate with him, extremely affectionate. So,
and now we know why it was that in high school, Spencer Kimball's nickname was Hot Lips.
Whew, well, I don't know if I can confirm or deny that, but anyway, your mind goes there. You're like, there's a lot of situations where you're going to be affectionate in the temple, and these poor temple workers are going to have to be scrutinizing, trying to determine your sexuality, trying to determine what a glance or a handhold or a pat means. And I think that the workers in that training realized that and were uncomfortable. I think they were trying to get some guidance on how do I do that exactly? It's so invasive, to walk up to someone. So here's a picture.
They also might be wondering why it is that gay people are in the temple.
Yeah, because they can be there.
Why do we have to do this?
Yeah. And here are some pictures of the female leaders. Of course, women typically are, known as being, but here they are embracing and groping and grasping and hand holding and kissing. And, you've got all that, which is perfectly, it should all be fine. And then, of course, I put a little picture here of President Bednar receiving a lovely kiss from his wife, Susan, such a simple, almost very platonic. And, yet his training video has said that, something like this is not going to happen for any member of the LGBTQ community without being called into the temple president's office.
Do you remember when Gary Oldman played Dracula a few years back?
I do remember that.
Well, without the big bouffant wig, that's kind of what Elder Bednar's face reminds me of.
Oh my goodness. You always have to make a comparison, don't you? And a lot of these comments that I'm making, or these things I'm bringing up, were brought up in comments to my video that I put out this morning. People are going there and making these observations. I also started thinking, and so did people in the comments, initiatory, my goodness. I have here a picture of the original where, you were naked in a bathtub with fire whiskey being poured over you. But, through the years, you are with a person of the same sex, and they are, I mean, my experience was with the poncho open on the sides, and there was a woman who was touching me everywhere. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I should have had to go see the temple president. And then prior to the early 90s, there was something called the 5 Points of Fellowship, which happened in the endowment, where it's Masonic. You basically touch 5 points on another person's body of the same sex.
Do you know what those points are?
Let's see. It's the foot to foot.
Oh, it says it over there. I was going to do it from memory. I'm sorry. It's right there.
Do it from memory, and I won't look, and we'll see if you're right.
Well, now I'll get it all wrong. But, it was the inside of right foot to the inside of right foot, knee to knee. Yep. There was hand to hand, breast to breast. Yep. Well, no, breast to breast, arm, hand to shoulder, and mouth to ear. I think that was it.
Yep, that was exactly right. And again,
it's, hand to back. Hand to shoulder.
In the temple, of course, it's Peter that's instructing you, but it is a master in masonry where you're doing the same thing. So anyway, all kinds of places and times in the temple where you are in contact, in the way that they were describing that, might not be what you're supposed to be doing. So
when I first saw this, I thought this was step 3 in the all male cha-cha dance.
1, 2, 3, cha. 1, 2, 3, cha. Anyway, I really hope that somebody gets a hold of me or any of us and says, hey, yeah, I have someone that's a temple worker and they are seeing this training. Again, it's very new. We're talking less than a week old since my friend saw it. But, she was very disturbed just because she is an ally. And even everyone else in the room was just concerned about how exactly they would execute these instructions because there's so much margin for error.
Hey,
so
Rebecca,
anyway, we'll see. Yes.
Did you respond to, was it some guy out there who says, what happens if you get the 6th point in?
If you get what?
Some guy out there says, what happens if you get the 6th point in? And I wanted you to answer that if you could.
The 6th point of fellowship.
Oh, the 6th point of fellowship. Oh God. Then you really have to go to the bishop.
Swing.
That's exactly right. So anyway, it's an unfolding story and we'll see, but yeah, let me know if anybody talks to any other temple workers and this is part of it. So, but just the idea of the policing and the policing of leadership, right? Those rogue bishops and stake presidents who might be letting people attend when they shouldn't. I think that's what they're trying to check on, right? So
I guess so. I don't know. Or maybe they're thinking maybe they're getting there under false pretenses and trying to run into a sealing room and, I don't know, get themselves sealed in some unholy rite.
Yeah. Well, that happened to me. I was accused of being a polygamist when I was simply peeking into a sealing room.
With 3 of your boyfriends?
Yeah. Well, no, this was with my fiance and I had taken out my endowment, but it was the next time we went back and he wanted to show me what a sealing room looked like because we were getting married in a few weeks. And so we kind of tiptoed off the beaten path. And I've told this story several times before, but we peeked into a sealing room and right away this temple matron threw herself into the doorway and said, I know who you are. You're a polygamist and you're trying to do a ceremony and we're not going to have this here. And, my fiance knew I was uncomfortable in the temple anyway, so nervous about it before going, even more disturbed after getting my endowment. And, he tried to explain, nope, I'm just showing my fiance. But boy, yeah, it rattled me forever. It rattles me to this day.
I love that story. Every time I hear it, I love it more. And remember, these are the kind of people who are going to be determining who the gay temple patrons are.
That's it. That's exactly it. So anyway, unfolding story. We will keep you all informed. And if anyone has any information, let me know because I think it's pretty fascinating on a lot of different levels.